before I did the challenge, I was watching the numbers all day long, click, click, click. Now I know that, if it doesn't make this percentage or, whatever to get in or out where that gets triggered, there's no point in even looking at the computer. So now I'm stuck wondering what I'm going to do with the rest of my day. And it's been good because I know I don't have to worry about it anymore. I just followed the rules. I 2 or 3 times a day I check where I'm at, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. We call it passive trading for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome, passive traders, to another edition of the Option Genius podcast. Today, I have a special guest with me, Mr. Carl Nord. We're going to be talking about something pretty interesting that goes back to a few episodes ago, something I talked about, which was back on episode 140 of the podcast. I introduced something called the 66 Trade Challenge, which is something that people can do if they are having trouble with discipline. It's one of the ways that we talked about of how to overcome the deer in the headlights syndrome, or the not knowing what to do syndrome, or just not doing what you're supposed to do while you're trading. And we've all been there, and it's a mental thing. I talk about it a lot, that trading is 90% mental, 10% skills. Most of us know what to do. We just don't do it for whatever reason. And we all have our individual hangups. So Carl here, he's in a couple of our programs. He listened to that episode. He took it to heart and he reached out and said, I'm doing the challenge and I've been following him and he's been giving me updates all along the way. And I said, you know what? This is awesome. We need to get Carl on the show. We need him to share his expertise, his wisdom about going through the system and going through the challenge and basically his results. So, Carl, welcome so much.
Thanks, Alan. I'm glad to be here with you.
Yeah, it's a wonderful for you to share your time and experience with us. I'm really happy to have you here. And it's part of what we like to have in the Option Genius community, where we help each other. So appreciate that. So, Carl, let's get started. What was it about the challenge that made you decide to do it?
Well, actually, it was a combination of two of the podcasts. I listened to the 66 Trade Challenge first, and then I listened to the one right before it, number 139. When you have tried everything and you're still not profitably trading, that one, which is a long, long podcast. And over in there, you were saying you got to have a plan, you got to follow the rules step by step, and this other thing. And I was thinking, if I'm going to get this down, the 66 Trade Challenge will make me do the things you were telling that other fellow in the podcast just previous to it. It was a combination of the two that made me do it, but mostly it was because also, like you said, I had no discipline. I panicked all the time.
Great. Cool. So, I remember that one. That was 139. I think that one was like a coaching call. Basically, someone had written in and said, I've been trying this for years and years and I haven't had any success. And what helped me? What am I doing wrong? And so I got on them and I asked him, I was like, hey, would you be willing to have it recorded and shared? And he was like, yes. So we got on the call, and it was about an hour and a half long.
And he had either an English or Australian accent.
Yes. Yep. And he's actually in the free Facebook group that we have. He's in there and he responded. It's been about a year, I think, since that episode, or I don't know how long it's been. It's been a while. And he responded on Facebook just recently. I think it was last week that he's made a lot of strides. He's listened to that interview several times, and and it really helped, and he's made a lot of changes and he's doing much better. So I'm glad that was helpful. Cool. So basically you said that you were having a problem with discipline. How bad was that problem?
Well, it was bad enough that I wasn't making money. It just, if the market went against me, I was just panicking all the time and either selling too soon or exiting the trades too soon or too late or something. It just kind of got overwhelming for a little bit, and I was looking for an answer when I listened to those two podcasts. It kind of put it together for me.
Sweet. And so what were some of the things that you had tried before the challenge to overcome that problem?
Well, I guess I just well, I had taken the class, so I was trying to apply what I learned there. But until I did the challenge, I couldn't get myself to stick with it the way I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And even after the challenge, I started with the challenge, there were some things that happened along the way. For one thing, I didn't want to do adjustments, and that cost me. I saw it big time. Next to the last trade that I did an adjustment. I tried doing an adjustment on it, and after all was said and done, I came out with $6 ahead. So, don't lose money. That's the big thing. Don't lose money, and so now I keep an eye out for doing adjustments. But by the time I got done with towards the end, about the second half, the last 33 of the trades, I was starting to settle down pretty good, and profitability was going up. I was doing better in percentages and stuff like that, and on my returns, and fewer losers, and certainly no big losers. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So that kind of leads me to my next question. So before the challenge, what were your results?
Well, my results were mixed, mostly down, but I had a few winners here and there. But I wasn't applying all the rules as I was just looking at a chart for a company. I'd pick something and look at the chart and see if it was starting to trend or if I thought it was going to. And then I looked for the option, get the option list there, and pick out something. I wouldn't look at you. You have a whole lot of particulars, and I don't know how much you want me to get into those. But I mean, it just things like dividends. I didn't worry about whether a stock had dividends or not, and that was important as far as the stability of the company. And then there's some of the Greek stuff, the betas, and that I hadn't been paying attention to that, even though I know you had emphasized it when I went through your course.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So you had the passive trading formula course, you had all the rules, you had all the plan, you had everything, but it sounds like you kind of picked and chose what you wanted to follow and what you left alone.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. And what strategies were you using before and during the challenge? Like what was it? Naked puts, covered calls, squared spreads?
No covered calls. I did call spreads on the call side and the put side. Most of them were naked puts, actually.
Okay.
But as I went on, the spreads seemed to be working for me better, puts on the spread side. And so I did those four things. The naked calls.
You did naked calls?
Yeah, sold calls, naked calls.
Okay.
Just a few, not a lot. I think no, yeah, right. There was not a lot, and I only did two. I take that back. There was a bunch of call spreads that I did.
Okay.
There was two naked calls that I did, and one was a loser, one was a winner. Overall, that way it was a winner for the two. Did naked puts and then put spreads. And the put spreads gave me a better percentage win, not necessarily a better dollar win, but a better percentage, which over time would have been better, I think.
Okay. And how long have you been trading options before you took the challenge?
Since last October.
Okay. So what is that? Almost a year?
It's coming up on a year. Yeah.
Okay. And so when did you start the challenge?
I started the challenge on January 25th.
Okay. So October, November, December, January.
I my trade, so I know the date. It was 25th.
So you were trading for about 4 months before you took the challenge. Okay.
Right,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So now just to recap, you've been trading for 4 months, you're using different strategies, and you said that mostly your results before the challenge were that you were negative and you kind of didn't really know what you were doing. So what were
Sometimes I still wonder that.
we all do. So then now that the challenge has been completed, and the whole point of the challenge was to have you, and just a little bit of background for people who haven't heard that episode, the whole point of the challenge is to have everybody do 66 trades in a row of following the rules exactly as they're laid out. And the idea behind it is if you do that, it should help, if not trigger, a habit forming response. So we want to make following the rules a habit it where it's just automatic. You don't have to think about it. And, go back to psychology and whatever, they say that the average is about 66 times that you have to repeat something for it to be a habit. Now, it can vary depending on the emotional response and the person, but 66 is about average. So that was where we came up with it. And so if the idea was that if you take a trading plan, you do it 66 trades in a row with no deviation from the plan, then it'll make it much easier to have that discipline as you continue. So now that the challenge is complete, Carl, what are your trading results after the challenge?
Well, I use Thinkorswim. And so when I go to put on a trade, well, first I check the chart on a company if I've got one picked out. And I check the chart on it to see if I can spot a trend or whatever, if I really want to do the company. Then I go to the trade to get the option chain. And Thinkorswim has, you can lower it, and it gives me the beta, the dividends, the volume of the trades and all that stuff, what's going on with it. And my eyes just start. I just start at the left and go across the top, and okay, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this. Okay, it's got all that. Now I go down, and that takes care of the underlying. I go down to the option chain and I start looking for the price on the individual options and making sure that the delta is within the range that I want, first of all, and then go to the price itself. And if I'm doing a spread, I want to get not less than 30 cents on the spread. If I do a naked put, if I like the company well enough, it's 30-cent minimum too. It just 30 cents is the base. So if it's above that, great, wonderful. So I do that, and I just pick my.
Okay. So that's the process, but how are your results now? Like, because before you said you weren't winning on too many trades. How about now?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. The second half of that set of trades, I had out of 33, I had maybe 5 losers is all, which was good for me. I mean, it was much better for me. That's without a doubt. In the beginning, I got hurt in some of my averages and the dollar amounts because I started using 5 contracts per trade, paper trading, and it wasn't after about 5 trades in, I heard you telling somebody somewhere along the line to do it like we would really be doing it. And I could only afford 1 contract on a trade. So I reduced it. But in those 5, I had 2 losers that were really, really big dollar wise. And that hurt me there. So,
okay.
But all of that, as I went on, it became practice with following the rules and getting a little bit better at reading the charts. It just between the two, it helped. Check the company once in a while on the fundamentals to see if the company is standing in good with some of the analysts there on Wall Street or whatever.
Okay. But let's say, so in my mind, I'm trying to create like a progression, right? So before challenge, during challenge, after challenge. Now, before challenge, you said things were not too good. You were still pretty new. And so you were having more losses than winners. During the challenge, as you said in the beginning, the first 30 trades or so, you were paper trading, but you were trading a little bit larger size than you actually have the capital for. So eventually you cut that down. But because of those 2 losses, you're saying that you were negative. And then for the last half of the challenge, you said you did about 33 or 35 trades or something. And there were only about 4 or 5 that you lost on. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And then when did you finish the challenge? What date?
I think, I didn't look at the data when I finished it. I can get that for you in just a second.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking for ballpark, because you started in January.
I finished it June 5th.
Oh, okay. So it took about 5 months to do the whole challenge. Now, from June to now, because right now, as we're recording this, it's August. So we got June, July, August, or June, July, really. How have you been doing these 2 months?
The trades that I've done have been winners, but I haven't done very many trades because of the oils. Working with you on the check trading program. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So you're doing fewer trades, but you're switching what you're doing.
Yeah, well, things kind of evolve over time, as you do stuff. Like I can afford to put on 1 contract for the oils, but it leaves me just enough to do 1 contract in equities if I picked a low enough value company. And for that, you've got to follow the rules for that. With lower end companies. You gotta get it. It's hard to find a company that's really stable and can give you what you need. But so I've just started doing that, kind of evolving into that, and so far I've got 2 trades that have won, and that side of it is going good for me. The oils, I need to work on.
Right. I mean, anytime you're learning, it's something that's going to take some time. But it seems like the challenge, I guess what it seems like the biggest benefit for the challenge was that it forced you to actually use the rules, and it forced you to actually dig deeper into the material and be like, okay, I paid for this. I'm in this program. I got to make sure that I'm actually following the book. Is
Yes,
that safe? Yeah.
that's
Okay.
safe to say. Yes.
Okay. Cool.
And it was what I needed because like I said at the beginning, I panicked a lot if the market went against me and I'd get out too soon or too late. Just the rules are there for a reason. They set you up so that you can get in and out at the right times, and if you're down, then, how to adjust and, what time do you want to pick to do the adjustment and that kind of thing.
Right.
Was important.
Yeah. I think something you said is what you just said is like really, really important because, in the progression, I'm like, okay, you went from a new trader to having a little bit of experience and losing trades. And now you're winning on most of the trades. And that's great. You're making more money than before. It's showing potential. But I think what you said is that before you used to panic. Now, because you've done so many trades, and I think this one challenge also forced you to do a lot of trades, you don't panic as much. And that in itself, by itself, even if we don't even look at the money or the win-loss ratio or anything like that, but the fact that you have more confidence in the system, in the trading plan, and in yourself as a trader, I think that's huge because that will go well into the future. And I think for me, that was one of the things that helped me switch in my mind from, oh, hey, I'm a new beginner, I'm just messing around, to, okay, now I actually know what I'm doing. Now I'm confident. Now, if the market goes against me, I know how to bail myself out. And so that allowed me to sleep at night in a sense, because it's like, oh my god, my trade's in trouble, what do I do? In the beginning it's like, oh my god, the trade's in trouble, oh, I hope the stock goes up tomorrow, I hope the stock goes this tomorrow, and you're praying and you're not sleeping at night and you're checking the the overnight markets. But once you have that confidence that, hey, you know what, even if it goes against me tomorrow, I know what I'm doing and I know how to get out of it. I know how to, if I have to take a loss, I know I can take a loss, or if I want to adjust, I know what to do and how to do it. That gives you a peace of mind that is kind of like what puts you in the zone. I don't know if you play sports, but for basketball players or football players, they just get into this mental state where they see everything, they can do everything, and they don't mess up. And that's where the greats really have a lot of that, So I think what you just mentioned is because of the challenge and because of you just doing it over and over and over again, I think that's a huge benefit that's going to carry and help you for the next, years and years of your trading.
Yeah, it trained my eyes to, when I bring up the screen, it's just automatic. No, clicking across the different things. This fits. Nope, that doesn't. Let's go on. Another thing that it's done is where before I did the challenge, I was watching the numbers all day long, click, click, click. Now I know that, if it doesn't make this percentage or, whatever, to get in or out where that gets triggered, there's no point in even looking at the computer. So now I'm stuck wondering what I'm going to do with the rest of my day, And it's been good because I know I don't have to worry about it anymore. I just followed the rules. 2 or 3 times a day, I check where I'm at, and that's it.
Yeah. We call it passive trading for a reason.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that I think, and this was a side benefit, like I didn't even think about this, but it seems like because of the challenge, you put on a lot more trades than you would have normally.
Well, yeah, but I was paper trading, so
right.
I could,
Yeah.
I had a limit though. I knew even if I had the money, I probably wouldn't do more than 6 trades. And if I had the money, I would limit myself probably 10 contracts per, if I had the money. And that was going to be my overall limit someday down the road.
Okay.
I did do the 6 trades. I did do that with the paper trading.
Mm-hmm.
and in order to speed up the process. I didn't want to do one at a time only all the time, and so I just kind of went for that. But
Yeah. So it seems like you, by doing the challenge and doing the trades and wanting to get through the challenge, you actually sped up your learning process. Because I mean, you've been trading for less than a year and you're talking in a way that I don't hear a lot of beginners talk. You're speaking like a option trader that's been doing it for like several years now. So I think this is like one side benefit that I didn't even think about, that when we have somebody new to options, we'd be like, okay, here's the basics. This is what you got to do, and then you got to do the challenge. You just have to do the trades. This is how many trades we want you to do over and over and over again, so that you put in the reps. You put in the time. You get that experience, and you build it up as quick as possible, so that you go from, hey, I don't know anything, I'm not disciplined, I'm not experienced, I'm scared, to, okay, I've been through the war, I've been through the battles, I know exactly what to do, when to pull the trigger, when not to, and you come out the other side and you're like, okay, hey, I got this. So yeah, this is awesome. Cool. So what did you learn about yourself when doing this?
Well, I learned that I needed help, that I shouldn't just try to figure out to do it by myself. I learned that I had to put in a little bit of time and work on it, more than a little. And I learned, I learned to focus on the right things, and not get so worried about how the money was going up or down, and stuff in between. I was sticking with, watch the percentages and watch how it's rising and falling, and do the rules. So but before, it was, oh God, I can't stand to lose this much money, I'm out. And then I'd get out, and the next day it'd be right back up again, and I'd have lost all that money. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one that a lot of people never overcome. And that's something that I'm actually learning myself again right now, because as we're trading for the fund, the fund is much larger than I've had in any one account. I mean, I have multiple accounts. So overall, the size is big. But now that I have that whole big pie in the fund, we look at it. And if a trade's going bad, or not going bad, but the trade's just not going the right way, the loss number is really, really big. And I'm like, oh my God, we're losing a lot of money. But when you ignore that part of it and you just look at, okay, when is I'm getting out, or when am I having to adjust, I would realize that, oh, hey, this trade's not even in trouble. It's not even anywhere close to being adjusted or getting out. It's just that because the trade is so large that the numbers are really big. And so when the trade goes well, then the numbers get really big on the good side. So I'm learning this whole process again myself about, hey, don't worry about the numbers, don't worry about the amount, the dollar amount. Focus on the trade, the debit, the delta, and all that other stuff. So yeah, it's something that we keep learning over and over again. So that's cool. Now, when it comes to the challenge, what was the hardest thing for you to do?
Well, the hardest thing was I got 28 trades in and blew it and had to restart. That was hard.
So 28 trades in, and then
the hardest thing in all of it, Alan, has been trying to be right in the chart that I look at and use, and the assumptions I make about whether it's trending up or trending down or whatever like that. That is always the hardest. I mean, the rules are easy. You've made them simple. You just got to do them. But, there's just no accounting for the market.
Yeah.
That's the part that's the hardest for me.
Right. So, I mean, depending on the strategy, of course, it varies. I know for the spreads themselves, we do cover that in the program. I can go through that with you if you need to, but it's really, basically the idea is very simple. It's like, hey, if I'm trading a credit spread, I don't want to be guessing on what the market or the stock is doing. And I don't want to be trading something that it's not talking to me, pretty much. I mean, that's a weird way to say it, but like, I want to look for a stock that's trending. It's either going up, it's going down, or it's going sideways. The sideways ones I don't even mess with. If it's going up, going down, those are the ones I will trade spreads on. So I think we do cover that. And there's some things maybe I can go over with it again to see how to make sure that it's, what are we looking for to say, hey, it's trending, but in that sense, it's still trading, right? And so we can line it up and do it and have the perfect setup but then the thing just stops and turns around and goes the opposite way. And we're like, what happened? And that's why we need to be able to follow the rules. It's not just finding the perfect trade, it's also managing the trade. And when do we get out? When do we pull the plug? When do we adjust it? Or how do we know if we should adjust or get out? So there's all that stuff. And I'm really glad that you actually went through this, because the only way to know is to be in that situation over and over and over again. So kudos to you for that. Now that the challenge is over, and you said that, I want to go back to this. You said that you did, I think, what was it, 28 trades, and then you had to start over again. So why did you start over?
Because I took on a trade without checking. One of the rules is to have a dividend. What, I don't know if it's your rule, but it was one of my rules that your structure there. I had to have a dividend or a yield over 1%, and I didn't look at that, and it was zero. And I had already put the trade on, and then I was going back to to fill in my paperwork, and I saw that, and doggone it, there it was.
Right.
Zero dividend, no dividends. So that company was off my list, but I had done it, so I had to start over again.
Yeah, because that's one of the rules of the challenge, that you have to follow the rules on every trade. And if you mess up, or if you don't follow the rules, then you got to go back to the beginning and start over again. And that's kind of what makes the habit, of just doing it over and over and over again. So, I mean, good. Again, kudos to you. Like, most people would have been like, oh, that's not a big rule, I'm going to just fudge it and just keep going. But it shows that you're serious about this. That's one of the things I want to point out to everybody, that, when we see you on the coaching calls, you ask questions, you post and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I have, and you want to do it. You want to learn. You're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort. Doing a 66 trade challenge is not easy. It's definitely, most people will not do it. I say that the mental aspect is trading is 90% mental. I can say also that 90% of option traders who are learning this stuff are not going to go through and do an entire 66 trade challenge. What you just described, that, oh, hey, I messed up on this one rule, I messed up and I started over again. Most people would be like, yeah, no, I'm just going to keep going. So, that shows that not only do you want to do it, but you have the willpower and the discipline. And I don't know if that came from the challenge or it just, you had it naturally, but that's,
no, I came from the challenge.
Well, that's awesome, because that's what it takes.
Rules, so I had to do it.
Yep. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes to get good at this. And, from what I'm seeing, I've seen a change in you yourself, right? From the beginning, from when you started the program to now, I've seen a change in you, your demeanor, your questions, and you've come light and day. So if there's anybody listening to this that's like, oh, how do I learn options the fastest way? Well, I think it's, do the challenge, get a trading plan, do the challenge, put yourself in that position, do the reps, and you'll make light years of progress. So that's really awesome. And I think I might have already answered this one, but what has changed for you now that the challenge is complete?
Well, I'm more sure of myself with doing the trades. I mean, the part of putting on the trade, selecting the underlying and putting on the trade, and that it's just the rules. It's only figuring out whether it's going to go up or down, or along those lines, and that's always going to be there. But for me, I don't have to wonder if I'm doing the right thing with putting on the trade, because I know now with the trade that when I look at the options that I'm doing everything right. I just need the market to go in my direction is all. And so, like I said, now I only check on it 2-3 times a day, and it's been a relief, to be able to. I went fishing all day yesterday and didn't have to worry about it. I could have checked on my phone, but I didn't. It's just, let it rip. Let it go.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, some people say, oh, this is like passive income. I'm like, it is, and it isn't, I mean, it is income, and we still have to watch it. So it's not like you're not doing anything, but it has a hint of excitement, but it's not overwhelming. It's not like terror most of the time. Cool.
Yeah. Well, I had those episodes of the terror. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the progression of going from like a newbie to, an experienced trader that's been doing this for some time, that you don't have as many of those. Cool. So now the final question for you. The challenge itself, did it help you form some habits, or no?
Oh yeah. It's like I said before, it's just like it's automatic. My eyes just go to the things I want to check. I've got a worksheet that I made up for myself, and I just fill in the numbers as I go. But even when I'm looking now to see if it's a trade that I suspect I might want to do, my eyes are still traveling from right to left along on Thinkorswim there, checking off the things on the underlying that I know I'm going to need to have in place before I even go any farther with it. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. I mean, it does, in a sense, make it more boring. The trading can get more boring when you actually know what you're doing and you have a set plan. It's like, hey, I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this. And once you have that, it's like, oh man, it's not so exciting anymore.
Uh,
But I think that's the goal. I mean, if you want excitement, go buy a lottery ticket or go, go.
yeah, right. Well, I do that too, truth be told.
Cool beans. All right. So is there anything that else you would like to share with our audience? Any tidbits of advice or anything like that?
Well, I guess we've covered most of everything. Whether you do the challenge or not, I would say, follow the rules, write down, just you've got them and they work. So follow them. You'll reduce your number of losers and increase your numbers of winners. That's
Yep.
simple.
Yeah. I think I've heard it over and over and over again. It's like, just follow the rules. Just follow the rules. It's like but that's the hard part. That's the hard part of getting people to do that, getting them to follow the rules. And that was the whole idea behind the challenge. So I thank you again for your time and for your wisdom. I'm very happy that you were able to complete this and that you got the results that you have. And I can't wait to see the future and what it holds in store for you. So thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.